Everyone, welcome to the show. So, Arizona is really giving Florida a run for its money in regard to being the most cray cray state. Seriously, I recently shared with you guys, as you know, about the armed vigilantes who were watching voters, they're recording them as they drop off their ballots in Arizona. Lawsuits were filed, but a judge has ruled that these election deniers can't be banned from doing these things because it might violate their First Amendment rights. Such total BS. Well, it's now being reported also that there's another entity or person that goes by the name of Ben Sent Us, like the name Ben, Ben, Benjamin Franklin. This group or person was also named in a lawsuit along with these other groups. And the group or person hiding behind Ben Sent Us mailed out threatening letters to members of the state Democratic Party, as well as Arizona residents. So the letter to party officials says, in part, that they'll, quote, be locating your homes. And then this letter also states that anyone who allows election fraud, quote, will be considered a traitor and dealt with accordingly, as will you. And then there's residents in Arizona who also report receiving flyers on their vehicles, which said, quote, I'm watching you. And according to the Daily Beast, there's a website with the same name as this group or person, but it was registered overseas on August 30th. So journalists weren't able to discern who owns the site or the domain name because they're using a hosting company that allows the payment in the form of Bitcoin. And they really shield their users. The Daily Beast reports that the website, quote, depicts a man being hanged as text on the screen reads, quote, when you're texting, we are watching. When you're making the drop, we are watching. Now, what's clear from the full text of the letter is that whomever this person is or entity that wrote these letters, it's either from a foreign country or they're just not too bright. So, for example, in the first three paragraphs in this letter addressed to the Democratic Party members, it reads in part, quote, copies of all evidence will be turned over the local sheriffs. And in the third paragraph, they spelled the word sentence, Sentance. So we're either dealing, like I said, with a foreign entity who's trying to exploit the divides in our country, or we're dealing with more Trump stable geniuses. In regard to voter intimidation and that whole effort, there was another lawsuit. There was a second lawsuit filed by a different voting advocacy group. The second lawsuit also named that group, that Clean Elections USA that I mentioned, as a defendant. But in addition, they also named a group called Lions of Liberty. So Lions of Liberty was founded by a former Oath Keepers member named Jim Arroyo. Since the lawsuit was filed, Lions of Liberty issued a statement with a stand down order to their members. And they said that they will no longer be monitoring drop boxes. And then they threw some shade at Clean Elections USA. In their public statement, they said that they were named in a lawsuit along with, quote, other organizations with whom we have no association and whose desire for law and order is much less than ours. So we'll see what happens with all of this. I mean, I just think that this is like a powder keg. This is like, an accident waiting to happen with these armed people outside, because all it takes is one other person on the other side, also armed, and now you have a tragedy. And these judges just don't get it. You're protecting someone, their First Amendment rights to say, is what he argued, that they are looking for voter fraud and that they are watching to make sure that people don't attempt voter fraud. But what about people's rights to vote and not be intimidated at the ballot box? I guess he doesn't take their rights into consideration. They don't count. So anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching and listening. Take care, and I'll talk with you soon.